everyone, and welcome to New Gameplay Today. I am your host, Alex Stadnick, and I am joined by Dan, the legend, the Jacket Tack. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing today, Alex? Great to be here.
I'm so happy to have you, but you are not the only guest today, for I'm going to try out a new nickname here. We have the Prince of Pop Culture here with us today. The King of Late Night, John Carson.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. How do we like that one?
It's pretty early in the morning for the King of Late Night, so...
Yeah, we had to rouse you out of bed for this. Speaking of this, Tack, what are we playing today?
This is Final Fantasy XIV, but it's not the Final Fantasy XIV you can play today. We had an early chance to go do a little exploring in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, the upcoming expansion.
Oh, okay.
So we are playing an expansion class here. This is the Reaper, a new DPS class, a melee DPS class that, not surprisingly, reaps. As you know, sort of like a sort of an interesting take on the Necromancer. Doesn't really have pets, but channels the undead within his spirit.
Ooh.
Very, very powerful stuff here. I do not play it very well in these clips because I'm still learning it.
It's your first
It
time.
is actually fairly complicated for a melee class. Many people are familiar with the concept of building up a resource and spending it, right? It's very popular in many games. So this class has 2 different resources that it needs to keep track of. And then it can enable new abilities. Like you can actually become like the aspect of the Reaper and transform to do like really heavy
that should
DPS.
be my nickname.
Yeah,
Please call me
it's
the
a very
aspect of the Reaper from now on.
It's been noted, John.
Great, thank you.
it's a very cool class. A little bit more complex than some other DPS classes in this game, I would say. That's my take on it right now. You've got lots of different abilities that are very contextual, so you're not just going to be hitting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You've got a lot of different options, and you kind of really need to pay attention to combat in order to know when to use them. And you even have a teleport, too, which is very similar to, say, the Warlock summoning portal in World of Warcraft. So you can get in and out of the action very quickly when you need to, even as a melee DPS. So that's very handy. You've got lots of mobility on top. We are in the Tower of Zot here. You may remember the Tower of Zot from such games as Final Fantasy IV, one of my favorite Final Fantasies. They got the same music here, which is excellent. As is always the case, the music in Final Fantasy XIV is incredible across the board. Sort of a reimagining of there's a 3 sisters fight that is very popular in the Tower of Zot, where you fight 3 sisters at once, and they kind of teach you how to deal with the reflect spell. In this particular dungeon, you fight each one of the sisters sort of independently and then all at once. And they do use for those of you at home who wonder if they do the Delta attack, they do. And in the final fight, you will have to take one of them out in order to get them to stop using it. It's very dangerous. Actually, for an entry-level dungeon, this is a fairly complex dungeon run.
Seems fun.
It is. I really enjoyed it. It took us about 40 minutes to get through, but nobody knew what they were doing. We were playing these classes for the first time. Again, people are going to look at this video and be like, whoa, you're terrible at playing Reaper. I'm like, yo,
There's the Sage, too? Is that the other class that they're adding? Okay.
The Sage is also being introduced in Endwalker. That is the new healing class. Super, very, very cool aesthetic. Both the new classes have just ooze aesthetic, okay? Like, they vibe hard, and I think everyone's going to want to play them just because they look freaking cool.
Okay.
And again, the Reaper was a really blast to play once I got the hang of it. I don't have the hang of it here. I'm just kind of hitting buttons. But it's enough. It's enough to get through. Later on, I figured out how to become much more efficient with my combo chains. Again, this class is highly contextual. So there isn't like a set rotation, right? You have like, you're going to be like, well, maybe in this situation I want to hit 1, 7, 8, 4, 6, 5, 4, 0, 9, you know? And then you got a lot of different abilities to use in different orders. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I really had fun with it once I started learning it.
Good.
But this was sort of the first experience I had with it, so I'm just kind of doing something that resembles a DPS rotation.
Yeah. And to the untrained
Trying
eye,
not to die.
it looks wonderful. Now, Tack, is there some lore thing I don't know where everyone in Final Fantasy XIV are bunnies?
Yes.
What's happening with these ears?
So that is one of the new. I guess it's sort of a new race. You can now be a male Viera. So why not, right?
Sure.
Listen, if you're playing Final Fantasy XIV and you don't have cat ears or bunny ears, you're doing something wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
all right.
that's true.
I think I saw that on the
Or a
box.
tail.
Yeah. No,
I mean, you just kind of got to get into it, right? Like I think it's mandatory.
Yeah. John, what's your level of hype for this? What kind of experience do you have playing the MMO here?
So, I've played through the A Realm Reborn scenario twice now on 2 different servers, and that's kind of where I've stopped. I've gotten into the very first expansion. So I was kind of hoping to catch up to Endwalker before that comes out. I have a lot of work to do that if I'm gonna make it by mid-November or so.
You ain't gonna make it.
Hey, yeah, have some faith in me. for
I do,
once,
but that's
please.
like a couple hundred hours, man.
They don't call me the king of late night for nothing. That's what I'm doing. I'm just playing
Alright, fair.
MMOs all night.
I can't wait to hear about your journey. I'd like to have like a Dear Diary thing. Update me every week on your progress.
Sure.
I'm also scared for you, John. Please don't do this to yourself.
I will be the aspect of the Reaper by the time this is done.
I don't fear the Reaper. So Dan, what else is new? What else is new in Endwalker that people can be excited about, or what from what you experienced?
I mean, this is a fairly traditional expansion in terms of like, you've got new levels, you're gonna new level cap, new dungeons, new raids, new everything, right? This is a very, very traditional expansion, but more of it than other expansions because this expansion represents the end of a very, 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 very long story arc. It doesn't represent. Do not misconstrue this with the end of Final Fantasy XIV because a lot of people are doing that. But no, it's just going to close out this very long story arc that we've been doing since the beginning, pretty much. So
Yeah,
that will be interesting.
It's a really cool structure. Like they're ending it with what they're releasing with. Is it 6.0? Is their Endwalker version patch, and then they're starting a new story with the subsequent patches. So not only are you getting at the end of what they've been building for expansions and years, but you get the start of something new, which usually you have to wait for like a whole new product for. So it's neat.
For sure. I think, gaming Twitter is its own insulated thing, right? But I feel like Final Fantasy XIV has really blown up in the last year, and I'm curious. Like,
there are a few different reasons for that.
I was gonna ask, like, is it pandemic related? Is it just like, have they fixed this game? Like, what's led to this like rise in popularity?
People are if New World didn't teach you this, people are thirsty AF for a new MMORPG experience right now. So they've gone from their old standby. I mean, I'm just gonna say it, it's World of Warcraft, right? And they've been checking out new things. I don't know that Final Fantasy XIV resonates with all those WoW players. It's sort of different as an MMO, and I've been saying this in my recent reviews over the last two expansions that this is really a good example of almost a single player game at this point. You can play through without any interaction with other players. The trust system is back in this expansion, so what that means is you can actually do the dungeons with AI. There's no need to ever group up with anybody if you're not comfortable doing that. So you can kind of play it like its own insulated Final Fantasy tale, and you're probably going to like it a lot more than some of the other modern Final Fantasies. Call Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, don't you
or
dare,
Final
Dan.
Fantasy 15, whatever,
Oh, wow, there it is.
Hey, I just had to get that in there. Hey, what up?
Coming in hot today.
I'm sure the YouTube comments will be very kind to me. All right. Yeah. I think people are really on the lookout for new MMOs at all times because whereas in the past we had so many different MMOs to pick from, and now it's kind of gotten consolidated as developers really don't want to get into the MMO market anymore since it's extremely expensive and incredibly risky to go against one of these giants, right? Like, it takes so many resources to make an MMO. So it's just kind of like a genre that is not really explored a ton anymore. So the big standbys are out there, right? Everybody's always trying new things, and a new expansion is always the best time to get in, right? Because everybody basically starts back at zero. You're going to be on par with everybody when you get a new expansion. Final Fantasy 14 a little different. Obviously, you can purchase one of the potions to be at level cap with everybody else, but I think you miss a lot. Like, if you don't play through this game, I think this is a very, very, very much a journey and not a destination kind of game where there
really
is a hundreds of hours of story to go through, and I think if you don't do it, if you don't do it, I don't think you're going to have as much fun. That's just my take.
Interesting.
It's my read.
Because I feel like most games, like you've talked about WoW in the past, you talk about New World, that those games and MMOs in general really predicated on the end game. But it doesn't sound like this is necessarily falling in line with that.
This does have an end game. It's a little different. Like,
or no, yeah, sorry, but I mean, like you're not just killing boars in the forest in this one. There's actually like story that's worth going through.
I mean, yeah, you're still killing boars in the forest, but there is a very, very long and in-depth storyline as well. Yes.
Okay.
This is probably the most story-centric MMORPG available on the market today.
That's cool. I like that. Also, what the hell are you fighting right now?
Don't worry about it.
What is this thing?
Yeah, don't think about it too much. The Tower of Zot is, again, a really cool Final Fantasy. Yeah, why not? Weird machinations. You never really know what you're fighting in Final Fantasy, okay? And this game, more than obviously this game gets to tap into the member berries from every single Final Fantasy in history. So all of the old school guys like me are like, oh my god, it's Final Fantasy IV, the Tower of Zod. I love the Tower of Zod. And then you go back and you're like, well, you know what? The Tower of Zod wasn't really that cool. It does have a cool soundtrack, so they got that going for it.
Yeah,
Some big bangers.
Like that. Some Dan Tack certified big bangers here, baby.
Dude,
We
Final
love it.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Final Fantasy as a series has the best soundtrack in all of gaming.
Ooh.
Period. End statement.
That's
Wow.
not even a bold claim.
It's mad bold, and we're getting into it here today. All right, this is the boldest thing I've ever said. All right,
I think you missaid Kingdom Hearts, right? That's what you meant.
I do like Kingdom Hearts.
I mean,
but
that
it-
counts.
It's so good. It is.
That
Yeah,
is
Kingdom
that
Hearts
is
is
Final
really good.
Fantasy adjacent.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
indeed. John, from what you're seeing here, is this enough to get you to come back? I know you said you were thinking about it and excited about it.
Yeah, I really want to try out the Reaper class. I think I need to get a little bit higher in my levels. What's nice about Final Fantasy 14 is you really just need one character to do everything. You could switch between classes at basically when you switch your weapon. So you can try out just about anything you want if you're at the proper level to do it. So yeah, I usually gravitate towards like spell slinging classes, but Reaper looks really cool. It really helps that it's just a dope aesthetic, like Dan was saying.
It is. I mean, dude, it's Bloodborne the class,
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm here for it. All right.
Yeah.
It even has a transforming scythe. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. Is there Tack? Is there kind of a barrier to entry for new players on certain classes? Like, do you think the Reaper is going to be easy for people to pick up and play?
My first take on it, and it may not be accurate, as I said, is that the Reaper is a little bit more complex than some of the other melee classes that are available right now. But at the same time, like, it's not gonna like block anybody out. You can figure it out. Obviously, I'm flailing a bit here, but after a couple days of play, anybody can get the rotations down. But it is one of the more complex melee classes in this game, kind of like Samurai. So it's not just like a 3-button class or anything. So
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do it first, but it looks so cool. Why not, right? And this game, most of the time in this game, you're not being judged by like a meter or something. You're not going to get kicked from a group for doing low DPS or whatever, depending on
Yeah,
what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Certainly at the super high end, but
Mm.
nobody's
I
going to care if you're doing a little bit less DPS in the Tower of Zot, all right?
Yeah, I've found the communities a lot less judgmental about your abilities. Everyone's pretty helpful, at least in like early game dungeons that I've experienced. So a far cry from the typical WoW experience for me.
Well, and I guess we've been talking a lot about New World on the site lately, and
Oh, God.
Tack has lauded it, or maybe just talked about it for the return to social like gaming in MMOs. Do you gents prefer something like Final Fantasy where you can just kind of go head down and have your own experience, or do you wish this had a little bit more social aspects to it?
I like the fact that you can pick and choose. Sometimes I'm in the mood for some really hardcore PvP where people are screaming at each other, and other times I just want to chill. So I'm glad that we
Yeah.
have options.
Okay.
I feel like Dan's argument about New World being like so much more social than any other MMO is maybe a little bit reductive to other MMOs, because they do have social aspects if you know what you're looking for. Like you can join a free company in this, which is basically your guild, and have that community aspect. But obviously, New World does have a more free-form social aspect to it. So, yeah, I mean, it's there if you want it, certainly. But it is. I do like being able to take care of my own business and like play through the story by myself if I need to. If I can team up with friends, all the better. Like multiplayer's always a better way to play most games. So.
For sure.
Which doesn't make sense. Don't listen to that sentence again.
It's okay. We won't. No, viewers, don't play it back.
Yeah.
We flash forward to the end here, Tack. The final
Yes,
confrontation.
this is the final battle in the Tower of Zot. As you can see, all 3 of the sisters at once, and they do the Delta Force attack, which is really cool. Again, very iconic. It gets the member berries going. I'm like, oh my gosh, it brings me back to Final Fantasy IV, which I just played through the remaster about a month ago. What a great game. One of my favorite Final Fantasies.
I remember.
Final
remember?
Fantasy XIV is basically the granddaddy of all members. All right, it is really there are so many references in it. Like if you like Final Fantasy, they bring it all here.
Nice. Yeah.
And
Cool.
I think we haven't seen it yet, but we might even be going. I think the big raid in this expansion is actually Pandemonium Fortress, which is from Final Fantasy II, which many people probably haven't played for good reason. That one is like really, really bad. All right.
But isn't that Final Fantasy IV, Dan? I'm
Oh God!
confused
Don't
now.
do this to me, John. Don't do this to me.
We don't want to end relationships here on New Gameplay today.
Which was a really cool. The final dungeon of Final Fantasy II is pretty iconic for that era, and I can't wait to see how it's visualized here in 14.
Cool. Well, Tak, any parting thoughts before we say goodbye?
I'm excited for Endwalker. If you like MMOs, if you like Final Fantasy, you probably should be too.
Wow, there you go. Another box quote. And then, John, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it looks rad. I'm probably gonna start up my Final Fantasy 14 adventure once things get a little bit less busy with work and everything. So yeah, I'm excited to play Endwalker eventually. We'll see if it's November. Dan, I'll keep you posted nightly on.
I want to
what level
see
I'm at.
Dear Diary. Today I completed the main story. Okay, something like that. You know, that's what I'm looking for here.
I want you to write it as like a Civil War correspondent.
Yes.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Dearest
My
Daniel.
dearest Dan.
Alex, don't give away my idea for my new podcast, which is
Oh.
game
Oh,
reviews,
no.
only Civil War correspondence.
Bro, you gotta have me start signing NDAs. Anyways,
All right.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me and showing off Final Fantasy here. Viewers, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you love preview coverage, we got plenty of it over on youtube.com/GameInformer and GameInformer.com. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You know the thing at this point. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.